This is Michael Popok, Legal AF. It is high time for the United States Supreme Court to stand up for Michael Cohen, a patriot who was jailed as a political enemy of Donald Trump in a new case that's pending before him, seeking damages for him being thrown back into jail for 16 days of solitary confinement after he refused to sign a non-disclosure agreement that was put in front of him by prison officials at Donald Trump's behest, and instructions by William Barr that he would not criticize Donald Trump. No, I'm not talking about Navalny and Putin. I'm talking about Michael Cohen and Donald Trump. And two other federal judges that have looked at the issue while they released Michael Cohen from solitary confinement through a writ of habeas corpus refused to find that Michael Cohen had a case for damages for the constitutional violations of these federal officers for the Bureau of Prisons led by Donald Trump against him. And now it's time. It was such an egregious example of abuse of power against somebody who is your political enemy and trying to undermine their First Amendment rights that even one of the founding trustees of the Heritage Society has joined forces with Michael Cohen, a former Representative Mickey Edwards of Oklahoma, Heritage Society founding trustee. Also, the chairman of the American Conservative Union and PAC has joined together with about a dozen other Republicans and conservatives to file a friend of the court brief, an amicus brief, with the United States Supreme Court in favor of Michael Cohen. That's how bad and how obvious and how transparent the abuse of power was in putting Michael into 16 days of solitary confinement because he refused to give up his First Amendment right to podcast, to blog, to do hot takes, to write books about and criticize Donald Trump. I've been doing this a long time. I've dealt with the Bureau of Prisons a long time on behalf of clients. I've never heard of them putting a NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, which happens in private world, but generally not in the Bureau of Prison world. Not something imposed by a federal judge, not a requirement to be released, but they wanted him to sign an NDA, right, for Donald Trump. I've never heard of this in my entire life. And there is a concept in the law when you can't figure out what crime has been committed. In other words, there's no literal crime on the books. It's just a good old-fashioned constitutional violation led by a federal officer against an individual. And that person needs to be able to sue in order to get redress, in order to stop that federal officer and make them think twice about ever doing that again, and to give them compensation for the damage already committed. That falls under a rubric we call a Bivens action. Bivens comes from a long line of a Supreme Court case named Bivens and a long line of cases under it. And Bivens stands on the foundation of a case from the 1800s that all lawyers like me see as our touchstone for constitutional analysis, Marbury versus Madison. You have to give redress for an obvious abuse of constitutional violations of civil liberty in our constitutional republic. Or what are we? Then we're not a country of law. We're a country of men who can abuse other people and take away their civil liberties without repercussion. So it's a Bivens action. The problem with a Bivens action is that the Supreme Court has narrowed considerably who can actually sue as a plaintiff under a Bivens action. So at the United States Supreme Court, one of the main issues is, can Michael Cohen qualify as a Bivens plaintiff to bring a case for constitutional violations against federal officers at the Bureau of Prisons that forced him back into solitary confinement when he refused not to be a vocal critic of Donald Trump? Yes or no? What country are we living in? It's so obvious that all of these right-wing conservative Republicans, those that worked in the Nixon administration as a special prosecutor in Watergate, worked for George Bush, worked for Reagan. Even, as I said, Mickey Edwards, founding trustee of the Heritage Foundation, the same entity that's generated the architects for the Project 2025 blueprint for the first 180 days of a new Trump administration. Even he thinks Michael Cohen was a political prisoner that was abused. Donald Trump likes to talk about Jan 6th insurrectionists trying to burn down the Capitol and lynch elected officials and their staff as being political prisoners. You know who was a political prisoner? Michael Cohen. As we age, balancing our social life with next day responsibilities becomes trickier. That's why I'm thrilled to have discovered Zbiotics pre-alcohol, a game-changing product for responsible adults who enjoy a drink but have plans the next day. Zbiotics pre-alcohol is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. Invented by PhD scientists, it's designed to address rough mornings after drinking. Here's the science. When you drink, alcohol creates a toxic byproduct in your gut. This byproduct, not dehydration, is what makes you feel rough the next day. Pre-alcohol Zbiotic produces an enzyme that breaks down this byproduct. Just make Zbiotics your first drink of the night. Enjoy responsibly, and you're set for a better tomorrow. Since I started using pre-alcohol before social events, I've noticed a significant improvement. After a night out with friends, I wake up feeling refreshed and ready for my day. Whether I have an important business meeting or a family outing, I can approach my day with confidence. Vacations, weddings, birthdays, and reunions, there's so much going on. Get the most out of your summer plans by stocking up on Zbiotic pre-alcohol now. Go to zbiotics.com/legalaf to get 15% off your first order when you use legalaf at checkout. Pre-alcohol Zbiotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're not satisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money. No questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/legalaf and use the code legalaf at checkout for 15% off. Thank you, Zbiotics, for sponsoring this episode and our good times. Michael Cohen, even though two federal judges struggled with trying to find that a Bivens action was appropriate for Michael Cohen was made for a Bivens action in what happened to him. He gets convicted for election law crimes because he's the fall guy for Donald Trump in the Stormy Daniels hush money cover-up affair. Sure, there were some other crimes involved. Once they went under the hood for Michael, they found some other things they didn't like that he did, and he got convicted of those as well. But the main reason he was in the crosshairs with the Department of Justice, a Donald Trump, Bill Barr Department of Justice. You see where this is going? As his former lawyer, now political enemy of Donald Trump. The main reason is because he took the fall for the payments that were made to help the Trump campaign, the very heart of the 34-count state conviction of Donald Trump in New York for Stormy Daniels. It took that long to bring Trump to justice because the feds wouldn't go after Donald Trump because he was in control of the Department of Justice, and they did his bidding. And so he gets convicted in 2018. He serves jail time, but then COVID hits. And because of health conditions, including Michael's, they release Michael Cohen and a lot of other prisoners to do home confinement. In order to get out, though, there was another key and another lock that only Michael Cohen had to use. When the Bureau of Prisons coerced him, compelled him, extorted him, sign here on effectively a private non-disclosure agreement not to go after Donald Trump, write books and podcasts and everything like that, or we won't let you out. And Michael Cohen and his lawyers were like, where's that in the release conditions? Where is that in a federal judge, an Article 3 federal judge's orders or conditions of release? Where is that? It's nowhere. Well, they asked too many questions. And like any good dictator, Donald Trump ordered that Michael Cohen be jailed again. He went back to jail, and they put him in solitary confinement for trying to exercise his First Amendment rights and object to the constitutional civil rights violations against him. That's the heart of the case. And that's why all of these conservatives and Republicans have joined and banded together to file a friend of the court brief to support Michael at the United States Supreme Court. It's up there already. The October term for the Supreme Court starts the first Monday in October. There will be oral argument on this. And if Michael Cohen wins, And he should. It'll establish new case law that a Bivens action is not just some concept, esoteric concept sitting on the law books. It's something that a person who's actually been abused by a federal official and had their civil liberties taken away and has no other crime that they can point to can actually sue for constitutional violations as a Bivens plaintiff. That will be one of the many, many things that Michael Cohen will go down in history as a patriot concerning. Besides helping to convict Donald Trump for almost the same set of crimes that Michael Cohen already served prison for, which is the topic here on this hot take. We'll continue to follow this odyssey of Michael Cohen to reclaim his good name and to be compensated and to have standing to go after his tormentors, his political tormentors in the form of Donald Trump and the Bureau of Prisons and Bill Barr, and get recovery and relief. Because if Michael Cohen isn't able to do it, that means you and I aren't. It's like it's that old saying, you know, they came for my neighbor, but it wasn't me, so I didn't say anything. And then they came for the guy on the other side. They came for the other person, and then they came for me. You have to stand up. That's why I went into the law. That's why I went into Legal AF and the MeidasTouch Network. You have to stand up and defend your neighbor, your fellow patriot, because it could be you. There's another old saying, the government is my enemy until I need a friend. Well, the government was Michael Cohen's enemy. And now they have to be, especially when it was in the hands of Donald Trump. And now I expect that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and their Department of Justice will take the right position to help Michael Cohen. That's the way to make this right. They don't stay neutral. They don't stay on the sidelines. They take an affirmative position and look the Supreme Court in the eye. Through their Solicitor General, they look the Supreme Court in the eye and say Michael Cohen is a Bivens plaintiff and should be compensated for what happened to him and have his suit reinstated. That's what the Department of Justice and the Solicitor General under Joe Biden should do. And we'll watch it to make sure these things happen on Legal AF and on the MeidasTouch Network every Wednesday and Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Legal AF, the leading podcast at the intersection of law and politics. We curate the top 3 or 4 stories there. And as lawyers who practice in these courtrooms, we bring it to you unfiltered, unhinged, unplugged, right here in defense of democracy on this network. Help them get to 3 million. I think it's going to be Labor Day. 3 million free subscribers. Can you imagine that? If you're not already a free subscriber or you can't remember, go out and look. Push the free subscribe button. That's it. You're building this network with us with our bare hands. By word of mouth, organically. No outside investors, no marketing plan. We are the marketing plan. And then you can follow Legal AF Wednesday, Saturdays, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Like to watch your podcast? Join us for the live recording and on the video. Like to hear them? Listen to them? Plug in Legal AF to all audio podcast platforms. So until my next hot take, until my next Legal AF, this is Michael Popok reporting. Heary, heary, Legal AF Law Breakdown is now in session. Go beyond the headlines and get a deep dive into the important legal concepts you need to know, and we discuss every day on Legal AF. Exclusive content you won't find anywhere else, all for the price of a couple of cups of coffee. Join us at patreon.com/legalaf. That's patreon.com/legalaf.